Just imagine being 9 months pregnant and your husband serves you divorce papers at your own baby shower. How would you feel? He handed them to her in front of everyone. The day that was supposed to be the most beautiful celebration of her life turned into the cruelest ambush she had ever experienced. The cameras were already rolling. His father had planned this for months. His new woman wore white like a bride at someone else's funeral. The family clapped. Strangers whispered. She stood there, her baby bump visible beneath her dress, holding those papers while a room full of people watched her break. But what none of them knew, not her husband, not his father, not the woman who came to replace her, was that her phone had been buzzing in her pocket for the last 8 minutes. 12 missed calls, 4 urgent messages, all from the same number. She looked down at the screen and her hands stopped shaking, because what she saw changed everything. They thought they had destroyed her on the most vulnerable day of her life. They had no idea they had just made the biggest mistake of theirs. What happened in the next 10 minutes didn't just humiliate them. It ended them. Before we go there, if you believe that women like her, women who are silenced, dismissed, and discarded while carrying new life deserve to have their voices heard, then subscribe. Every time you do, you're telling the world that stories like hers matter. Drop a comment with where you're watching from. Let me see how many countries are standing with her right now. Now let me take you back to where this nightmare began. Maya knew the moment she stepped into the Callaway estate that she wasn't walking into a family. She was walking into a courtroom where the verdict had already been decided. The first dinner was when she understood everything. Victor Callaway sat at the head of the table like a man who had never once been told no. His eyes swept over Maya's modest dress and the pregnancy book she had placed beside her plate. His jaw tightened before she even spoke a word. "So you're still working," Victor began, his voice low and deliberate. "How much longer do you plan on doing that?" Maya smiled carefully. "My company's regional launch is next month. I've been leading it for 2 years. I'll take maternity leave after the baby comes." Victor leaned back in his chair. "A woman about to give birth, running a business. My son didn't marry a wife. He married a career." Her husband, Daniel, cut his steak and said nothing. That silence told Maya everything she needed to know. From that night forward, Victor made it his mission to shrink her. The insults were surgical, never loud enough to confront, always loud enough to wound. "She thinks a title makes her important," Victor would say at family gatherings. "Meanwhile, her child will grow up not knowing who his mother even is." Daniel stopped defending her. Then he stopped looking at her. Then he stopped coming home on time. One evening, Maya came home after a grueling investor presentation, exhausted but glowing because the board had approved her proposal, and found Daniel waiting in the kitchen, arms crossed, eyes cold. "My father called you 3 times today," he said. "I was in a board meeting, Daniel. I told you this week was critical." "Everything is critical to you except this family." She stared at him, searching for the man she married. He looked away. "Have you ever worked so hard to build a future for someone who was quietly being told to leave you behind?" Victor's strategy was flawless. He never attacked Maya in front of Daniel directly. He planted seeds over private lunches, golf mornings, late-night phone calls. "She's going to outgrow you, son. A woman with that much ambition doesn't stay. You deserve someone who puts you first." And Daniel, who had spent his entire life chasing his father's approval, began to believe every word. Meanwhile, Maya carried a secret so massive she couldn't tell anyone, not Daniel, not her closest friends, not even her doctor knew the full scope of it. For 7 months, while pregnant and silently enduring Victor's campaign to destroy her marriage, Maya had been negotiating the acquisition of her company by a European investment group. A $650 million deal that would reshape her entire industry and place her as the youngest regional CEO in the firm's history. She carried it alone, the way she carried everything, quietly, completely, without complaint. The baby shower invitation came from Victor himself. His voice on the phone was warm in a way that immediately set off every alarm inside her. "Family only. A small celebration before the baby comes. Let me do something right by you, Maya. She hesitated. But a desperate, soft part of her wanted to believe it was real. It wasn't. When she arrived at the Calloway estate, the driveway was lined with cars she didn't recognize. Inside, the living room was packed with extended family, distant relatives, and faces she had never seen. At the center stood Victor in an expensive suit, smiling like a man who had already won. And beside Daniel, wearing white, her arm linked through his like they had been together for years, stood a woman named Cassie. Oh, Maya thought, there it is. Victor stepped forward before Maya could speak. We're so glad you came. There's something important we need to address today. Daniel wouldn't meet her eyes. Victor's voice was deliberate, theatrical, designed for the audience watching. Daniel has made a decision. This marriage isn't working. We thought it was kinder to handle this now before the baby complicates things further. Maya's hands moved instinctively to her belly. You want a divorce? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel finally looked at her. I want a life with someone who chooses me. You've been gone for years, Maya, even when you're standing right in front of me. Cassie touched his arm gently. I'm so sorry, she said, her voice dipped in false sympathy. Some women just aren't built for this kind of life. The relatives murmured in agreement. Cameras clicked. Someone handed Maya a folder, the papers already signed, already prepared, every detail arranged weeks in advance. Have you ever had the people you loved most turn your most vulnerable moment into their greatest performance? Maya looked down at the folder. Her hands were trembling, but her phone was still buzzing. She looked at the screen, 12 missed calls. The name on the screen, Marcus Webb, senior partner, Webb Fontaine Group. The acquisition, the $650 million deal. Final confirmation. They had chosen today. She looked up at Daniel, then at Victor standing there with his arms crossed and his chest full of victory, then at Cassie like a replacement pulled off a shelf. And something inside Maya crystallized into something unbreakable. She said quietly, give me a moment. She stepped into the hallway and answered the call. What happened in the next 4 minutes was everything. Marcus Webb didn't waste words. Maya, the board voted unanimously this morning. The acquisition is confirmed. We're announcing globally in 20 minutes. We want you on the live stream. This is yours, every bit of it. Are you ready? She looked down at her stomach, at the child who had listened to every sleepless night, every silent argument, every moment she chose to keep building instead of breaking. Yes, she said, I'm ready. She walked back into that living room, phone in hand, and set it on the coffee table with the screen facing the room. The live stream began. Marcus Webb's voice filled the space. The Webb Fontaine Group is proud to announce the completion of our $650 million acquisition. Leading our new regional division as Chief Executive Officer is the woman whose vision made this possible, Maya Calloway. The room went completely still. Her name, her title, her face projected on her own phone screen in front of every person who came to watch her fall. Victor's confident smile disappeared. His face went pale. His hands, the same hands that had orchestrated every moment of this, dropped to his sides like dead weight. Daniel's face turned gray. Cassie stepped back slowly, suddenly irrelevant in a room that no longer had space for her. And Maya, 9 months pregnant, standing in the house that tried to erase her, picked up the divorce papers, looked Daniel directly in the eye and said, I'll be filing my own, with my lawyers, on my terms. She set the unsigned papers down, picked up her phone, and walked out the front door. Nobody followed. 3 weeks later, Maya gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She named her Victory, and she raised her alone in a corner office overlooking a city that finally knew her name. What happens when the woman they tried to discard while carrying new life becomes the woman the world can't stop talking about? She becomes free, and her daughter grows up never having to learn how to shrink. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And tell me in the comments, what was the moment that hit you hardest?